Hey guys, Tyler here.
One of my longest running series on this channel explores the biology, history, and culture of various alien species in Star Trek. But while I've covered a number of high-profile aliens from all the shows and films, there are still several that I haven't touched on. I made a video a while back documenting the unique alien designs from Star Trek the Animated Series, and I thought I'd make a similar video for the original series and the TOS movies.
Except, there are a couple caveats.
Number one, I've already discussed at length multiple aliens introduced in TOS, which I'll list off shortly. Secondly, of the remaining species, a lot are essentially human in appearance, so I won't go into as much detail about their internal biology as I do about their homeworlds. Then I'll move on to the other humanoid species with more unique traits than the original series collection of non-humanoid species. And finally, I'll cover the new aliens created for the first 6 Star Trek films.
Let's get started. Okay, before we fully dive in, I need to establish some ground rules for this video.
Firstly, I'm going to focus on extant intelligent aliens first featured on screen in the original series and the movies. So I won't be talking about the Kalandans or the Mugato or who made the Doomsday Machine or that weird dog thing from Alpha 177.
Secondly, here's a list of aliens introduced in TOS that I've already made videos on.
The Vulcans and their ancestors, the Oretians, the various inhabitants of the Rigel system, the Orions, various non-corporeal aliens of Star Trek, including the Thasians, Trelane, the Metrons, Organians, the Companion, Redjack, and Zetarians, but not Gorgon species or the Medusans yet, the Romulans, the Gorn, the Klingons, the Greek gods, Tribbles, the Andorians, the Tellarites, and the Tholians.
If you haven't seen any of these videos already, please consider giving them a watch after you finish this video. Or before, but if so, come back and watch this one. All of these videos are in a playlist, linked in the description. Now, let's actually get started.
First off, the Onlys. This one honestly may not really count since they're basically humans from an exact copy of Earth in another star system. In their one and only canon depiction, Miri, we learn that around 1960, the adult population of the planet was annihilated after a life prolongation project went wrong. Only the children were left, hence the name Onlys, and they survived without adult care for over 300 years before they were discovered by the Enterprise. Various non-canon sources attempt to explain the planet's existence, ranging from a terraformed Earth duplicate created by the Preservers, to a duplicate created by a Terran space-time, a counterpart from a parallel universe, or simply a similar planet to Earth orbiting a random star. But in the episode, it's stated to be hundreds of light years from Sol, deep in the Beta Quadrant. Based on its presence on 25th century era Federation star charts, we can assume it remains inhabited and may be a prosperous colony thanks to Federation medical assistance. Shore Leave introduces us to the Keeper, the last remaining member of an otherwise extinct species who has been left as the caretaker of the Shore Leave planet. We don't really know anything else about the Keeper species other than, well, they appear human and have technology that can recreate visitors' fantasies. The Batons of Beta 3 are another interesting case. First featured in The Return of the Archons, and then again in the Lower Decks episode No Small Parts, the Batons are known for their longtime subservience to the computer Landru, built by a philosopher of the same name some 6,000 years ago. Despite this, the Batons are frequently referred to as human, which has led some sources to suggest Beta 3 is a lost human colony. These two facts could be reconciled if Beta 3's inhabitants were maybe moved there by a race like the Preservers. Whether this is the case or they're an alien species, they certainly look human and have maintained a 19th century level of technological development. The Aminians, as featured in A Taste of Armageddon, are human-like aliens native to Amini R7, which orbits a sun-like star. They fought a war for 500 years with the planet Vindicar, an Aminian colony, before Captain Kirk put a stop to it. Subsequently, the Aminian Union has established diplomatic relations with the Federation. The Capellans, featured in Friday's Child, have a society bound by strict rules, divided into typically hereditary tribes. Their homeworld, Capella 4, orbits the real-world star Capella 43 light-years away. A quadruple star system, Capella, also known as Alpha Aurigae, the sixth brightest star in the night sky, consists of a red giant, a yellow subgiant, and two red dwarfs. The two giants orbit close to each other, less than an AU apart, while the red dwarf pair orbits 10,000 AUs away. Nevertheless, it's interesting to consider what the habitable zone of the Capella system would even be like. Forget the 3-body problem, this is an 8-body problem at least.
Reminds me of my college days. At BYU.
In fact, in my simulation of the system, all the planets' orbits were unstable and eventually got ejected, but that may have just been because I suck at Universe Sandbox. Given that the stars are likely less than 650 million years old, the giants having probably started out as hot A-type stars like Vega, the Capellans are almost certainly not native to the system. Yet, McCoy distinctly says that they aren't human. So, yet again, this may be a situation where the Capellans' ancestors were moved to their homeworld by a race like the Preservers, or perhaps Capella 4 is a lost colony of another alien race that also just so happens to appear human. Again, and their homeworld would likely need to have been terraformed or otherwise possess an atmosphere thick enough to protect surface life from more intense ultraviolet and X-ray radiation from Capella. Additionally, the Capellans themselves would likely need genetic adaptations to withstand this additional radiation. The Argelians, natives to Argelius II, visited in The Wolf in the Fold, were once a violent race who embraced a pacifist, hedonistic lifestyle after a great awakening around the 2060s. That sounds lit. I hope we have one of those in real life. Some Argelians also possess psychic powers. Their homeworld orbits Iota Leonis b, part of another quadruple star system 79 light-years away in the Beta Quadrant near Klingon and Romulan space. Iota Leonis consists of an F-type subgiant and an F-type companion, 18% more massive than the Sun, that orbits it every 190 years, as well as an outer companion of two K-type stars. The system is also 1.7 billion years old, meaning I also find it questionable whether the Argelians are actually native to the system. Typically, Earth-like planets are expected to need about 3 billion years before they become considered habitable by exoplanet standards. And 1.7 billion years into Earth's history, our planet's atmosphere didn't even contain substantial quantities of oxygen to support complex life. That said though, F-type stars may actually accelerate the pace of evolution on orbiting habitable planets, meaning Argelius II could have obtained atmospheric oxygen very recently in the past that led to a global glaciation like one of Earth's snowball periods. After this glaciation ended, an explosion of multicellular life forms could have given rise to the Argelians. The Hawkins are another pacifist civilization featured in the episode Mirror Mirror, where they refused to grant the Federation dilithium mining rights, fearing the element would be used to carry out acts of violence. Pretty understandable given the Federation's recent wars with the Klingons. Hawke's atmosphere has a purple hue, and the planet notably has severe electromagnetic storms, such as the one that causes the Enterprise away team to temporarily swap places with their Mirror Universe counterparts. The inhabitants of Planet 892-4, as seen in Bread and Circuses, are another species whose origins are somewhat ambiguous. Their planet is very Earth-like and presumably orbits a similar star to our Sun, and their world's land-water ratio and atmospheric composition are actually identical to our planet. But unlike Earth, 892-4 has 2 moons, different land masses, and the stated diameter at the equator would result in a surface gravity that is 62% Earth's, as well as a mass and volume roughly 1/4 Earth's. This would put the planet on the lower end of what's considered potentially habitable for an exoplanet, besides smaller exomoons orbiting gas giants and heated by tidal forces. The planet's society, a parallel to Earth's Roman Empire, is cited as evidence of the so-called Hodgkin's Law of Parallel Planetary Development, an in-universe precursor to the revelation that humanoid life is descended from the progenitor's genetic code. But it's also been suggested by various non-canon sources that these Romans were transplanted by the Preservers, which I find more likely. One of the numerous Federation member worlds present at the Babel Conference in Journey to Babel, the Loctarans, so named by Star Trek Online, are not a founding member but have been part of the Federation for a very long time. The tribal natives of the planet Neural, which orbits the real star Zeta Boötis 180 light-years away, are featured in A Private Little War. In a parallel to the proxy wars of the 20th century, Kirk arms one faction of the Neuralese against the Klingons, something that doesn't sit well with McCoy. And people say Star Trek isn't political. Zeta Boötis is a triple system consisting of two A-type stars that orbit each other every 125 years, with an extreme eccentricity that brings them less than an AU apart at closest approach, as well as a distant F-type companion with an orbit of 3 million years. Because of the extreme nature of the main star's orbit, it's considered unlikely that any exoplanets could possess stable orbits around either of them. But while the F-type companion is a variable star, meaning it has major fluctuations in its brightness over periods of a few hours, this is the only place where an exoplanet could theoretically have a stable orbit in the Zeta Boötis system. As a result, the planet Neural would require a strong enough atmosphere to block the most harmful effects of the star's more intense radiation, and the Neuralese would need requisite genetic adaptations. But because the system is approximately 560 million years old, the Neuralese are yet again likely not native to the system anyway. You know the drill.
Man, this is starting to become like the lost tribes of Kolob in Battlestar Galactica.
The Iosians of Sigma Iotia II are a very imitative species, remembered in A Piece of the Action for modeling their society on Chicago mobsters based on a book left behind by the Federation starship Horizon 100 years earlier. And located at least 100 light-years from Earth in the Beta Quadrant, Sigma Iotia is designated by non-canon sources as a yellow or orange star, which could easily support Earth-like life. The Ecosians and Zeons and Patterns of Force, inhabiting an unnamed star system with at least 2 inhabited planets, also exist in a pre-warp state when we first see them, and the Ecosians' culture is contaminated by Federation historian John Gill, who instills a form of National Socialism on the planet, leading to discrimination against the peaceful visiting Zeons in an obvious parallel until Kirk puts a stop to this.
Fighting fascism is a full-time job!
The natives of the planet Omega-4, as seen in the Omega Glory, are divided into 2 ethnic groups, the Yangs and the Combs, also obvious parallels. The Yangs are found to worship the American flag and US Constitution, and the 2 factions are stated to have fought a biological war centuries in the past. While the Omega-4 natives' history is said to closely resemble Earth's up to a point, it's indeterminate whether they're aliens or yet another lost human colony. Either way, I also find it likely that the flag and Constitution were not indigenous to Omega-4, but left behind by another early Starfleet crew, much like the situation in A Piece of the Action. One of the 2 humanoid species inhabiting the Tellan system introduced in Elan of Troyes, the Elatians have, as of the mid-23rd century, been waging a long war with their neighbors. The Tellan system, a binary consisting of a G and F-type star, is claimed by both the Federation and Klingon Empire, the latter of which has its eyes on the planet's dilithium crystals. And in the episode, the crew thwarts an attempt to blow up the Enterprise. Physiologically, Elatians actually possess some notable differences from humans. Namely, males of the species are slightly taller than most other humanoid races, and Elatian women produce a biochemical compound transmissible to males, which, upon contact, acts much like a love potion. Affected men become romantically infatuated and rather enthralled by the infecting women, a somewhat similar reaction to the pheromones produced by some Orion women.
Holy moly, you know I have an entire video about that. One of my earliest alien biology vids, in fact, and it kind of changed the course of my life.
Oh, Divana. Where were we? Oh yeah. The natives of Sigma Draconis 6, seen in the notorious episode Spock's Brain, possess a retrograde civilization composed of gender-segregated groups, and they're also one of at least 3 civilizations in the Sigma Draconis system, 19 light-years away. Also known as Alsafi, Sigma Draconis is a K-type dwarf with an age similar to our Sun, meaning it would have had plenty of time for planets in its habitable zone to evolve complex life. One of the 2 intelligent species formerly inhabiting the Minara system, home to a giant that has gone supernova, the Androwan, so named in beta canon, are mute, but they are empathic. It's not exactly known how Androwan communicate, but this otherwise human-like species possessing a trait this alien is actually kind of interesting in an otherwise forgettable episode.
Oh, dang, I even forgot to say what the episode was called. It's called The Empath. See, just like I said.
The Fabrini, featured in For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, inhabit the asteroid ship Yonada, built by their ancestors after the Fabrini sun went supernova 10,000 years ago. Beta canon characterizes the former Fabrini sun as a red giant, though as our sun is expected to become a red giant later in its life, the Fabrini may have evolved in a stellar environment relatively similar to Earth's. In the meantime, the Fabrini have developed sophisticated medical knowledge beyond even that of the Federation, but they have come to worship a powerful computer called the Oracle. After the Enterprise crew corrects a navigational error that has Yonada heading on a collision trajectory with Darren 5, Beta Canon states the Fabrini are resettled on Darren 4, but an extremist religious sect engages in acts of terrorism to force the reactivation of the Oracle. Similarly, the home sun of the Platonians' ancestors, Sandara, also went nova in the first millennium BC, though we don't have as much information about the nature of their star. Regardless, the Platonians engaged in a mass eugenics program before leaving their planet, after which they resettled on Earth in the Greek region. Following the collapse of Greek civilization, the Platonians resettled once again on Platonius, and modeled their civilization on the teachings of Plato and Socrates, though the planet's food has caused them to develop psychokinetic powers. And as we see in Plato's stepchildren, the most powerful psionics are at the top. The Scalocians, inhabiting a world orbiting an orange star, suffer from infertility due to radiation sickness as observed in wink of an eye. They exist in a hyper-accelerated state, experiencing time much more slowly than the surrounding universe. They attempt to lure starships to their planet with distress calls in an effort to repopulate their race, but they are considered effectively extinct. The Gideons from the Mark of Gideon live in a germ-free environment, which has increased their lifespans and ultimately resulted in mass overpopulation. While the planet is in negotiations with the Federation for membership as of the events of the episode, we don't know exactly what happens to it afterwards, other than that disease is reintroduced to the planet, likely leading to mass death. Beta Canon has Gideon orbiting the blue A-type star Delta Doradus, 150 light-years away, though this would place it in the Beta Quadrant, whereas canon maps place it in the Alpha Quadrant. The Ardanans of the planet Ardana, introduced in the Cloud Minders, are known for their floating city Stratos and their export of Zenite. In the episode, the Enterprise crew intervenes to address class divisions between city dwellers and the mine-dwelling troglodytes, who are undereducated, discriminated against, and have been exposed to toxic gases, meaning they might be entitled to financial compensation. Ardana is notably a Federation member, which, as I've discussed before, has some really interesting implications about the nature of Federation membership during the 23rd century, especially given the planet's proximity to the Klingon Empire. The planet orbits the real giant star Mu Leonis, 125 light-years away, though Mu Leonis started out as a K-type star. Because of K-type stars' more stable radiation environments, exoplanets orbiting them are expected to be habitable for longer, but given Mu Leonis' much higher luminosity, Ardana most certainly orbits much further out from the star than the traditional habitable zone. Nevertheless, the system's estimated age, between 3.5 and 5 billion years, would have given plenty of time for complex life to evolve. The Catulans from The Way to Eden are a more mysterious case. As of the 23rd century, they have developed the ability to perform a nerve pinch somewhat similar to that employed by the Vulcans. In the episode, they are engaged in treaty negotiations with the Federation, potentially for future membership. They would be one of the Federation's more distant members, as Cthulhu is said to orbit the star Theta Pictoris, 517 light-years away. Theta Pictoris is a multiple star system consisting of A-type stars, meaning the Cthulhans probably are not native to the system, and their homeworld would require an atmosphere thick enough to shield from higher intensity UV radiation, with the Cthulhans possessing requisite genetic adaptations. And as seen in All Our Yesterdays, the natives of the planet Sarpedon, orbiting the star Beta Niobe, have escaped the supernova of their star by hiding out in periods of their planet's past using time portal technology called the Atavachron. Non-canon sources indicate Beta Niobe was not only formerly a red giant, but also M-type. But personally, I find it unlikely the star was ever a red dwarf, as that would typically induce tidal locking of orbiting planets, for which we see no evidence in the episode.
Before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video, 11 Oasis. 11 Oasis creates distinctive apparel for men who want their personality to shine through their clothing. They design pieces that turn everyday moments into opportunities for self-expression, helping customers feel confident and authentically themselves. And since I'm talking about the aliens of Star Trek the Original Series, which features plenty of eerie aliens designed to provoke unease, it's appropriate that 11 Oasis recently launched a Halloween campaign featuring some exciting new designs. I'm 5'9", so it can sometimes be hard for me to find good-looking clothes that fit just right, so they very generously let me pick out some samples from their Halloween collection to send me for this video, and I have to say, the designs look fantastic. The two large shirts I got are made of 100% lightweight polyester woven fabric and are perfect for those who refuse to choose between comfort and looking good. The jack-o'-lantern smile short sleeve lets you step into spooky season with a grin. It's playful, eerie, and unmistakably festive. A certified Halloween classic that turns heads after dark. And the Gothic Witch and Cat short sleeve with a gothic flair is the perfect blend of eerie and stylish for Halloween enthusiasts because, let's face it, it's the best holiday. 11 Oasis has tons of 5-star customer reviews, and their apparel is perfect for guys who appreciate the classics and is a good gift option for dads, uncles, friends, really anyone who appreciates nostalgia. Use my exclusive code OrangeRiver20 to get 20% off your next clothing item when you visit the link in the description today. Again, that's OrangeRiver20 to get 20% off. Big thanks to 11 Oasis for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it.
The Talosians are the first alien species to be featured in Star Trek, besides the Vulcans in the form of Spock, as seen in the series' first pilot, The Cage. Native to Talos 4, these humanoids once had an advanced, warp-capable culture that was devastated by a nuclear holocaust hundreds of millennia ago, leaving their planet virtually uninhabitable and killing most of the species. Surviving members congregated underground and became dependent on their mental powers, which they used to create illusions, losing the ability to use technology left by their ancestors. As we see in the episode, having grown bored of their illusions, the Talosians have begun capturing space travelers to use them as the basis for new illusions until the area is quarantined by Starfleet. The Talos system is part of the Talos star group, and while these stars' classes have never been confirmed, we do know there are 4 of them. Most likely, the members of the Talos star group are red or orange stars, be them giants or main sequence dwarfs, which would provide the most stable radiation environments for the evolution of complex life. If this is the case, the blue color of the Talosians' singing plants could be the result of the plant's pigments reflecting blue light while absorbing the longer red wavelengths from Talos 4's parent star. Members of Balak's species introduced in the Corbinite maneuver are somewhat difficult to pin down. Founders of the First Federation, a small power in the Alpha Quadrant, Balak himself resembles a human child with vaguely Vulcan-like ears, though he at first appears on the Enterprise view screen as a bluish cat-eyed alien. Though this is revealed to be a disguise, an information broker in the Lower Decks episode, The Inner Fight, resembling Balak's disguise, is not a puppet but indeed a living being. Previously, Beta Canon had characterized the puppet species as a relative of Balak's species that had once fought a war with his people. Their tall stature is not reflected by the design of the information broker in The Inner Fight, though he could be a dwarf member of the species. The M113 creatures, also known as salt vampires, are first introduced in The Man Trap and have gone on to become one of the more recognizable aliens from Star Trek. Though frequently referred to as creatures, they clearly are sapient organisms capable of carrying on conversations with other intelligent beings. They are also telepathic, enabling them to draw images from the minds of nearby people. They are even determined to be shapeshifters, using chameleon-like protective coloring as well as cellular mimicry similar to that of the changelings. And while long thought to be extinct, survivors still persist well into the 23rd and 24th centuries. A similar height to most humanoids, depicted individuals have brownish-green skin with purple highlights as well as yellowish eyes.
He had yellow eyes, so help me God, yellow eyes.
Their faces have sagging skin folds that give them a saddened appearance. Their mouths resemble an inverted snout containing several very sharp teeth, and their bodies are covered in string-like whitish hair. Their hands both have 3 thick fingers each, and each finger has 3 sucker-like feeding organs. These are used to extract salt from their prey, and they can also ingest pure salt through their mouths. Spock supposes his copper-based blood makes it unappealing to the salt vampires, or at the very least not nourishing. We don't exactly know the stellar class of the star their home planet orbits, though it's likely similar to our sun, given the green pigment of native plants. The Valians from the apple are primitive humanoids from Gamma Trianguli 6, and though they do appear quite human, their ruddy-colored complexion and some other minute differences distinguish them from us. Ruled for 10,000 years by a self-aware machine until Kirk intervenes, the Valians are probably not native to the Gamma Trianguli system, as it is only 300 million years old. An A-type star 112 light-years from Earth, Gamma Trianguli is far too young and hot, much like myself, to have supported complex humanoid life from the get-go. Indeed, one account suggests the Valians are another offshoot of Sargon's people, but whatever the case, much like Capella 4, their world would need to be terraformed or possess a thicker atmosphere to deal with more intense radiation from the parent star, and the Valians would need genetic adaptations to make them more resistant to this higher radiation as well. While the androids of the planet Mud from Mud outwardly resemble humans, they are nevertheless androids and so don't fit the same category as biologically human-like aliens. But what's interesting about the Mud androids is that they were built by a humanoid species from the Andromeda Galaxy. This has major implications for Star Trek lore that I think have kind of been overlooked. The confirmation that humanoid life is not restricted to the Milky Way. Most life from outside the galaxy in Star Trek is explicitly designed to be non-humanoid, but the androids' makers being humanoid can mean one of several things. Perhaps the progenitors at least partly seeded their genetic code on planets outside the Milky Way, or another humanoid race evolved independently in Andromeda, or the makers could be descended from a temporally displaced colony of humanoids from the Milky Way. In any case, the makers sent out large groups of androids to establish outposts throughout our galaxy, but they slowly went extinct after their home sun went supernova. By the 23rd century, one of the few remaining outposts is located on a Class K planet claimed by Harry Mudd until his antics are upended by the Enterprise crew. Another one of the numerous Federation members present at the Babel Conference, the Ethanites are short, copper-skinned aliens native to a planet in the Eta Virginis system. Eta Virginis is a triple star system consisting of A-type stars, meaning the Ethanites may have originated from another star system. Their copper skin could be an adaptation against higher UV radiation, and their short stature would suggest a homeworld that has a higher surface gravity than Earth. The Violaceans, also named in Star Trek Online, are a purple-skinned humanoid species who are members of the Federation as well. Their skin's purple hue may be an adaptation to an environment with slightly different starlight, which would result in their skin pigments reflecting different wavelengths. And the Macusians from Machus 3 are tall humanoid Federation members, individuals of which we've seen have dark brown skin, and according to Beta Canon have wing-like ears. Their homeworld also likely orbits a sun-like star. The Troyans are the other humanoid species native to the Tellan system alongside the Elacians. They're distinguished by their bright green skin and are more technologically advanced than the Elacians, having diplomatic ties with the Federation, and consider the Elacians to be arrogant and primitive. Their homeworld of Troyes has a very Earth-like appearance, though the Tellan star's higher luminosities would likely result in adaptations to deal with higher UV radiation. The Vians are the other humanoid civilization from Inara and have grayish skin and hairless, somewhat triangular heads with several prominent ridges. They are also telepathic and relatively resistant to the Vulcan nerve pinch. The Chironians, introduced in Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, are known for one half of their skin being white in color and the other half being black. The majority of their species has been destroyed by a racism-fueled civil war, as some Chironians are white on the right side and black on the left, with others vice versa. The Chironians are also an extremely long-lived race, with one representative supposedly having been pursuing an accused criminal across the Milky Way for over 50,000 years. They have extremely fast ships with advanced cloaking technology, and they even have advanced protective personal shields that can disrupt sensitive computer systems and be used as weapons. The Charon system is identified as Omicron Gruis, a real binary star 100 light-years away in the Beta Quadrant in Romulan space. The pair consists of an F-type main sequence star 31% more massive than our Sun, and a red dwarf companion 30% our Sun's mass, separated by about 14.9 astronomical units. Both stars are estimated to be about 1 billion years old, meaning the Charonians are, in all likelihood, not native to the system, which in any event is said to have been destroyed by the Romulan supernova. But older reference sources associate them with the binary star 83 Leonis, 59 light-years away, consisting of an orange subgiant star and orange dwarf companion, orbiting at least 515 AUs from the primary. These stars are believed to be roughly 8.1 and 4.8 billion years old, respectively, which would track with the Charonians' long lifespans, as it would give their civilization enough time to evolve in the system. The primary is closely orbited by two gas giants, with the Charonians' original homeworld stated to orbit the dimmer B companion. This makes sense as older stars are generally less metal-rich and thus less likely to host terrestrial planets. Based on both stars' lower luminosities than our Sun, the white part of the Charonians' skin pigmentation could be a response to decreased UV radiation, while the black half of their skin would shield them from the remaining UV rays, just as melanin does in humans.
Guys, I'm really trying here.
And the Tiburonians are a Federation species with large, fin-like ears and skin tones ranging from light brown to greenish, and some possessing a small line of ridges across their foreheads. Tiburon orbits Omega Fornacis, a real binary star 470 light-years distant that is composed of a B-type and A-type pair separated by over 1500 AU. This would mean that the Tiburonians are likely not native to the system, and their atmosphere would need to be thick enough to protect from the higher energy starlight, with Tiburonians possessing suitable genetic adaptations. That said, reference materials also state that Tiburon orbits a red dwarf, which would be an error if the planet really does orbit Omega Fornacis, or perhaps it does in fact orbit a different star altogether. One of the first non-humanoid intelligent aliens introduced in Star Trek, the Horta, introduced in The Devil in the Dark, are silicon-based life forms native to the planet Janus 6. They are invulnerable to Type 1 phaser fire and feed on rock, a real chemical process called chemosynthesis. Chemosynthesis involves the conversion of carbon-containing molecules into organic matter by using the oxidation of inorganic compounds as an energy source, rather than using sunlight, as in photosynthesis. Many microorganisms in dark regions of our oceans produce biomass through chemosynthesis, and it's expected to be the primary source of energy production by any silicon-based life we might encounter. Horta can become nourished just by tunneling, moving with the aid of extremely corrosive acid, which leaves perfectly round tunnels in their wake. Though they evolved in an anaerobic or oxygen-free environment, they appear able to survive in it for extended periods of time, which likely means that they're only partially silicon-based, as oxygen at Earth-like temperatures and pressures is expected to normally be toxic to silicon life. They also possess an unusually long lifespan, with all Horta dying every 50,000 years except for a single mother who watches eggs until they hatch and protects the hatchlings. After a misunderstanding that leads to murders of Janus 6 colonists, it is discovered Horta are sapient beings, and the mother reaches an accord with the miners. The young are left alone on the lower levels after they begin hatching, and the mother helps the miners access passages to choice mineral deposits. Non-canon entries even have them eventually joining the Federation. The episode Cat's Paw also introduces a species of advanced ornithoid life forms from outside the Milky Way galaxy. Members of the species were sent by entities called the Old Ones to establish an observation post on Pyrus 7. Possessing substantial mental abilities, the explorers transmute themselves to appear humanoid and hold members of the Enterprise crew captive. The crew escapes after Kirk destroys their transmuter tech, leaving their tiny, fragile bodies to die as they are incapable of surviving in normal M-class conditions. The Changeling reveals the early 21st century probe Nomad has become merged with the alien probe Tanru. originally programmed to collect and sterilize soil samples, likely in anticipation of colonization by Tanru's creators. Nomad, originally sent with the directive to seek out new life, had suffered memory loss after collision with a meteoroid. After the two probes met, Tanru's directive was somehow transferred and merged with Nomad's memory banks. The resulting hybrid probe began to seek new life and sterilize it if it considered it to be imperfect. The probe would go on to wipe out the Malurian race until it stopped from causing more destruction by the Enterprise. We also meet the Providers in The Gamesters of Triskelion, a group of disembodied brains who control the planet Triskelion from a concealed power station over a kilometer beneath the surface. We don't know what the Providers' ancestors looked like, though we do know they were humanoid. They can manipulate energy on a scale at least powerful enough to neutralize a ship's power systems, and they control thralls on the surface, capturing humanoids and forcing them to fight. As many of these fights result in death, they perform husbandry by kidnapping humanoids from across the galaxy using a powerful transporter and breeding them with existing stock. The other humanoids we see, including the Provider's proxy Galt, are of indeterminate species, but honestly could be from anywhere. By Any Other Name also features another extragalactic civilization, the Kelvins from the Andromeda Galaxy. Hailing from a homeworld that has fallen victim to Andromeda's increasing radiation levels, the Kelvins are shapeshifters who, in their natural state, are at least twice the size of an adult humanoid male. Their minds are highly disciplined and so complex that they can operate their 100 tentacle-like limbs independently, but they have evolved without human-like emotions or sensory perceptions. Members of the species settle on a Class M planet near the galactic barrier in an attempt to hijack the Enterprise after the ship is damaged. The crew thwarts this plan and offers the Kelvins protectorate status in the Federation, while a robotic envoy is sent to Andromeda with a peace proposal. Spectre of the Gun depicts the xenophobic Melkot species, telepaths who punish aliens who encroach upon their space without their permission. The Enterprise crew falls victim to this practice in 2268 and are forced to reenact the gunfight at the OK Corral as part of their execution. But after Kirk impresses the Melkot by showing mercy against the recreation of Wyatt Earp, they extend diplomatic friendliness to the Federation. Though we don't actually see their homeworld in canon, the Melkot themselves appear as floating, bulbous heads with a pair of bright circular eyes. And finally, the Excalbians, first introduced in The Savage Curtain, hail from a planet with a poisonous atmosphere and molten surface somewhat resembling Earth early in its geologic history. While the Excalbians at first appear as rocks, they are in fact carbon-based. They have a skeletal system and heavy foreclaws, and they have glowing eyes, a distinguishable head, and 2 arms. They possess the ability to rearrange matter into whatever fashion they desire, such as recreating Abraham Lincoln to lure the Enterprise to their planet. The Excalbians, intrigued by human concepts of good and evil, stage a play between the two concepts using recreations of notable figures from galactic history like Surak, Kalis, and Philip Green. We don't know exactly what kind of star Excalibia orbits in canon, though non-canon sources denote it as a hot blue star. You know the drill.
Before I move on to the TOS movies, there are a few non-corporeal aliens that I didn't specifically mention by name in my Non-Corporeals video. These include
the Medusans, highly intelligent telepathic and empathic aliens introduced in Is There in Truth No Beauty, which sees the transport of a Medusan ambassador to the Federation. Medusans are genderless, live together in hive minds, and functionally do not age. The sight of a Medusan can render any corporeal viewer mad, soon afterwards causing death from organ failure. Some species can view Medusans with a specially filtered visor, though upon exposure it can induce an involuntary mind meld. Medusans are renowned for their navigation abilities, and they employ starships similar in configuration to Starfleet ships. At least one Medusan, Zero from Star Trek Prodigy, cobbled together a containment suit without assistance to better interact with corporeals, later receiving new and improved suits from Starfleet, and later one built by Jankum Pog. This final suit allows Zero to feel physical sensations. aliens. The Medusans' homeworld is said to orbit the star Xi Hydrae, a G-type giant 130 light-years away. While Xi Hydrae is a very young star at about 510 million years, the Medusans' non-corporeal nature means they could still have evolved in the system, freer from the constraints of normal biological evolution. And the Triachus marauders, or Gorgon species from And the Children Shall Lead, inhabit the planet Triachus in or near the Epsilon Indi system, preying upon worlds in that system. Such piracy is showcased in the episode, as the Enterprise is nearly taken over by children who follow Gorgon as their leader.
Yeah, another Season 3 episode. Also, that just about does it for the first part of the video, talking about the aliens introduced in TOS proper. Once again, if you haven't already, I encourage you to check out my other videos on aliens introduced in TOS and TAS. But while I've kind of ragged on the designs of some of the TOS aliens so far in this video, the aliens introduced in the first 6 Star Trek films are of a different caliber. You'll see what I'm talking about. While the original series occasionally depicted non-humanoid intelligent life, even with the humanoid aliens, the Star Trek films allowed artists to flex their speculative biology muscles a little bit more. And though each alien of the week in TOS more or less takes center stage, there are a lot of forgotten aliens in the TOS films that are nonetheless noteworthy in their own right. So let's dive into that.
While the motion picture introduces a new design for the Klingon species, I won't cover aliens I've already talked about in other videos. I even made an entire video about V'ger, which you should also check out if you haven't already.
Instead, I'd like to talk about some of the more exotic members of the Federation.
Mostly designed by Robert Fletcher and Fred Phillips, members of these species populate the tram station, seen early in the film, as well as the Enterprise's bridge crew and lower decks. Firstly, there are the Amazirites, hailing from the planet Amazira in the Epsilon Serpentis system, known to the Amazirites as Thurbia. A real star 70 light-years away, Epsilon Serpentis is a young A-type star at only 500 million years. Typically, a planet orbiting a star this bright, hot, and young, much like myself, would suffer from an excess of UV radiation, with Epsilon Serpentis itself being 12 times as luminous as our sun. Earth-like worlds, or M-class in Star Trek parlance, are estimated to only become habitable after approximately 3 billion years, although this could be accelerated around hotter stars. That said, 500 million years is an incredibly short amount of time for life to appear and evolve complexity and intelligence, so the Amazirites, also known as the Thurbians, may be native to a different star system. Amazira may be a terraformed world, but in any case, the Thurbians would need genetic adaptations to deal with excess UV radiation to prevent damage to their DNA. A backstory for the Thurbians by Fletcher characterizes them as insectoid, generating clothing and furniture from their mouths like bees making hives or spiders spinning webs. They are an industrious people with a hive intellect, and their own body chemistry allows them to survive in virtually any environment.
So it seems Fletcher did take such biological traits into account.
The Arcturians are a militaristic people composed of clones and provide infantry for the Federation. They hail from a large planet orbiting the real star Arcturus, or Alpha Boötis, a red giant 36 light-years away. Arcturus is a very old star, being some 7 billion years old, but has roughly the same mass as our sun, having ballooned to 25 times its size and being around 170 times as luminous. Such a star would naturally have a habitable zone that is further out than our sun's, something that will also happen to our sun as it enters its red giant phase. The Arcturians' homeworld may have been a super-Earth that was once very cold, but has warmed up in recent eons. Indeed, non-canon sources expound upon the Arcturians' origins, stating they evolved on an inner planet but migrated outward to their current homeworld as Arcturus left the main sequence. But even so, the Arcturians' scaly, keratin-like armor skin would be essential in dealing with more intense UV radiation from Arcturus, which seems to have also been taken into account in their design. As of the mid to late 23rd century, the Arcturian population numbers 100 billion, with 1/5 of the population ready to mobilize overnight. The Alakri appear in the form of crewman Wareen, though this species name comes from Beta Canon. The novel Ex Machina characterizes categorizes the Alakri as feral humanoids with tails. The Betelgeusians have also garnered more attention recently in canon. Named after the real star Betelgeuse over 400 light-years away, this species is described as ornithoid, having evolved from large leopard-like birds. They have a claw and bone structure like a condor, but they walk upright. Betelgeuse, aka Alpha Orionis, is probably one of the most well-known red supergiants, though notably it is much younger than Arcturus, by orders of magnitude. Aged less than 10 million years, its incredible mass has caused it to evolve rapidly, and it is expected to end its life with a supernova within 100,000 years. Beta canon reveals the Betelgeusians actually originate from a main sequence star system close to Betelgeuse and migrated away from their homeworld centuries ago, being aware their home would be destroyed after Betelgeuse goes supernova. They exist as a nomadic species who lives on starships and space stations. One of the motion picture's most identifiable species is the Deltans, originating from the planet Delta IV. Physically indistinguishable from humans, save for their bald scalps, the Deltans are known for their strong sexual attraction, with Deltans in Starfleet swearing an oath of celibacy. They have pain-relieving abilities that manifest during tactile contact, though this ability does not heal injuries. They were encountered by humans by at least the mid-22nd century, and a member of the species, Ilea, serves on the Enterprise. Background material for the scrapped Star Trek Phase 2 series further expounds that the Deltans are a much older race than humans, their brains more highly evolved in the areas of art and mathematics, being able to handle the complex trigonometric calculations of space navigation as easily as humans learn multiplication tables. Freaking guild navigators. The guide also suggests Esper abilities are common on their homeworld, and that Deltans feel physical sensations more strongly than humans, valuing and delighting in emotion. They are said to have long ago lost their interest in space travel in favor of concentrating on inner space, a development some believe may be a more practical evolution of human civilization if interstellar travel proves too expensive and impractical, though the Deltans are still warp capable. Fletcher's background also characterizes the Deltans as great jewelry makers, their jewelry sold throughout the galaxy and being very popular. Gene Roddenberry's novelization explains the Deltans' strong sexual presence as the result of pheromones and subconscious telepathy, the former trait eventually incorporated into Orion biology and the latter incorporated into Betazoid biology. Notable given Deanna Troi was based on Ilea. The Deltans' homeworld itself orbits the sun-like star V2292 Ophiuchi, which is estimated to be between 1 and 2 billion years old, meaning the Deltans may originate from another star system, though this is uncertain. The Khazarites are described as shepherd people, raising herds of strange beasts on their home planet, but they also possess the power of telekinesis, enabling them to mentally communicate with animals, and for this reason they are also vegetarians. Many Khazarites have been brought to Earth to care for our planet's wildlife, with Fletcher characterizing them as 23rd century ecologists. Their telekinetic powers also extend to their starships, with vessels powered by thought. Their home system of Khazar is a quaternary system consisting of a K, G, M, and A class star, though it has not been correlated with an identifiable star system in real life. The presence of an A-type star suggests the Khazar system is very young, meaning the Khazarites may have originated in another star system. And depending on which star or stars their planet orbits, the Khazarites would need requisite genetic adaptations to deal with excess UV radiation, their homeworld possibly terraformed to make it habitable. The Kenormians are humanoids with very complex brains that allow long-distance communication. They hail from Kenorm in the Psi Tauri system, Psi Tauri being a real F-type star 91 light-years away. Psi Tauri has 1.6 times the sun's mass, 1.4 times its radius, and 4.8 times its luminosity, which would result in a habitable zone that's slightly further out, though the star is less than 1/3 the age of our sun, meaning the Kenormians may originate from another star system. The Megarites are humanoid aliens who possess skin similar to rhinoceros hides. Much like the Elcor of the Mass Effect series, their mouths consist of multiple overlapping lips that would presumably produce vibrations quite different from human speech. Indeed, their communication is described as lyrical, with Megarite musical poetry treasured across the galaxy.
Kinda sounds like Elcor Shakespeare, huh? Am I right? Am I right?
Sincere request. If you know any good agents, please send them my way.
The Megarites are aquatic, surviving on plankton, and they find it difficult to leave their home planet, with Federation science having developed intravenous injections to deliver proper nutrients to off-world Megarites. Their home planet is also rich in the mineral jade, their other primary export besides music, and they also make extensive use of graphite in their clothing and other manufactured goods. The Rondorites are featured semi-prominently in the motion picture. A long-lived species, members continue maturing until 150 years old and can grow to 8 or 9 feet in height by 200. There is little difference between the sexes, with women simply designated by minor differences in attire. A gregarious people, they hail from the planet Rondar, orbiting the real star Alpha Indi, 100 light-years from Earth. Alpha Indi is a young K-type star, less than a third the age of our Sun, though it has more than twice its mass, nearly 10 times its radius, and is 51 times as luminous. Thus, like Arcturus, its habitable zone would be much further out than our Sun's. Because of the system's young age, the Rondorites may originate from another star system. The Saurians have also made a comeback in canon, resembling humanoid lizards with scaly skin that can be pink or gray. They were first depicted with large yellow eyes, but newer entries give them large black eyes more akin to the stereotypical gray alien from popular culture. They have both vertical and horizontal eyelids, and their large eyes grant them an enormous visual spectrum of 74,000 nanometers. They have 6 nasal canals, making afflictions like the common cold particularly miserable, and like many Earth reptiles, they shed their skin on an annual basis. Each saurian also has a unique dorsal ridge as distinctive as fingerprints in humans. They reproduce asexually, laying eggs, and offspring are raised not just by biological parents, but by an entire community. Their language is considered difficult to master as it consists of a number of clicks and pops, with the universal translator occasionally having trouble translating it. Fletcher's original background also gives them more traits, describing them as capable of breathing different types of gases and having enormous strength due to multiple hearts. Their homeworld of Saria orbits the real star Psi Serpentis, a triple star system 47 light-years away consisting of a G-type primary with 2 red dwarf companions. The red dwarfs orbit about 100 AU out, leaving the habitable zone relatively undisturbed, and as Psi Serpentis is over 3 billion years old, an M-class world would have just enough time to evolve complex life. Culturally, the Saurians are known for Saurian brandy, a popular alcoholic beverage in the Federation. This makes them another example of an alien species mentioned in TOS, but only depicted on screen in later installments, much like the Caridonites, Rigelians, and others. The Shaman are people hailing from Orion's planet, named after a late 22nd century astronomer. Orbiting a G-type star in the Alpha Quadrant, we don't know much about their homeworld, but Shaman culture is said to possess many similarities to Earth's Native American cultures. And the Zeranites are a species of fluorine-breathing humanoids from Zarin 2. When off-world, they must wear breathing masks as they cannot breathe oxygen. Their homeworld is described as being poor in precious metals, and their parent star, the F-type star Mu Capricorni, 87 light-years away, is slightly poorer than our Sun in elements heavier than hydrogen and helium. It's also less than a third the age of our Sun, much like Alpha Indi, meaning the Zeranites may have originated from another star system. Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home introduces even more alien species who are confirmed to be on the Federation Council. The Amerizon, not to be confused with the Amazarites, also wear breathing masks, in fact the same prop as the Zeranites. Despite my earlier warning about avoiding confusion, this has led to much confusion among at least one individual, me. The Amerizon were redesigned for Star Trek Discovery, adding orange, pink, and green as the colors for the visible tops of their heads, in addition to yellow. Unfortunately, we don't have any information about their homeworld, but we do know that at least some Amerizon allied themselves with the Emerald Chain before potentially rejoining the Federation by 3189. The Arcadians are a species distinguished from most humanoids by their large heads in proportion to their slim and delicate bodies. They also have large, pointed ears and noses that protrude very little from their faces, as well as wide-set eyes. The non-canon Star Trek IV sourcebook update by FASA, the primary recognized source for identifying Star Trek IV aliens, describes the Arcadians as a pacifistic aquatic species that feeds on plankton but can also photosynthesize. Their lifespans are shorter than humans, between 40 and 60 years, and raise young in marsupial-like pouches. They are also credited as the discoverers of proto-matter, which David Marcus controversially implements in the design and construction of the Genesis device in Star Trek II. Arcadia is noted as the fifth planet of its system, orbiting a G-type yellow star called Velen Gamma, though this designation does not correlate to any identified real-world star. Another planet in the system, Mother Lode, is also featured in the Star Trek The Animated Series episode Mud's Passion, where it is depicted as an unaffiliated mining world that the novelization nevertheless describes as inhabited by Arcadians. Though this was written over a decade before Star Trek IV was made, these facts can be reconciled if we assume only the Arcadian homeworld itself is a Federation member and not the entire system. The Ariello are a quadruped species from a planet called Philandia, who somewhat resemble centaurs. They have a tough, leathery skin that is usually dark gray, green, or brown in color, and angular heads that slope upwards from a low forehead towards the rear of the cranium. Their jaws are angled down so that their mouths protrude slightly from their faces. Known for their music, the Ariello have no concept of time, as Philandia is a tidally locked world that presumably orbits a red dwarf, making them one of the most unique members of the Federation. Philandia itself is also said to be large and humid, dominated by tropical forests and mountain ranges, and plagued by earthquakes and volcanoes. While the prevalence of red dwarf stars throughout the Milky Way has led some to suggest so-called eyeball planets like Philandia might be the most common type of habitable world, the volatility of red dwarf systems and issues tidal locking presents mean life may actually be rare on them. But at the very least, if intelligent life does arise, particularly on the planet's day side away from the view of stars, such a species' psychology would very likely rule out a concept of linear time similar to ours, though clearly the Ariello have developed technology to a sufficient degree to warrant first contact and Federation membership. The Arcanites are humanoids native to Arcan 2, distinguished by their 3 cranial lobes, as well as pointed ears and solid green eyes, with at least one member possessing light tan skin. The Star Trek IV sourcebook update states they are an aquatic species that possesses complex sensory organs which can detect changes in temperature, pressure, and magnetic fields. They were also once a subject race of the Andorian Empire. The Bezit Kat are a vaguely amphibious species hailing from Althos 4. Though we don't know much about their homeworld, they are undoubtedly at least semi-aquatic and share many other traits with the Arcadians. The Afrosians have become a more recognizable Trek alien over time, being also featured in the form of the Federation President in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, as well as an episode of Discovery. Humanoids with cranial ridges, blue eyes, and white hair, the Afrosians hail from Ephros, though there is not much other canon information about the species. Beta canon suggests they are not monogamous, have a strong oral history, and that they were once subjects of the Klingon Empire but successfully rebelled. Production sources also suggest some Afrosian characters were intended to be portrayed as blind, though this was not carried over into the final film, but novels make a nod to this by describing Afrosian eyesight as weaker than humanoids, compensated by a heightened sense of smell. The Kashita are another reptilian species from Kashet that has reddish-orange skin, though concept art also depicts them as green. Their craniums are also larger than most humanoids, and their eyes are positioned more to the side than most other intelligent species. Other alien council members wear costumes that have, likely by mistake, been cataloged as Khazarites, but the costumes themselves name them as Mazarites. We don't know any other information about this species, though, besides their human-like appearance. And the Zalatians are a cephalopod species from Zalata, distinguished by metallic faceplates that cover their faces, save for a small viewing area over their eyes. These masks are necessary as normal lighting is too bright for the Zalatians. Though not seen in the film, they are said to possess long tentacles for limbs rather than arms and legs, and communicate using telepathy and bioluminescent pigmentation. Their environmental suits trap moisture and circulate water through slits, and moving about on land requires anti-grav harnesses similar to the invisible apparatuses used by the jellyfish-like Hanar in Mass Effect. These, of course, aren't the only aliens first depicted in live action in Star Trek IV. I made an entire video about the Cetaceans, which you should definitely check out as well.
Ah, damn, I forgot about the aliens that made the whale probe.
We of course don't see them on screen, but they evidently communicate using vocalizations and sonic frequencies similar enough to whale song that they likely established contact with Earth's cetaceans in the distant past. While non-canon, the novel Probe also suggests that not only are the whale probe's builders also an aquatic species, but on its way to Earth, the probe was damaged by the Borg, which may have contributed, in addition to the absence of humpbacks in the 23rd century, to the probe's attempt to reshape Earth's atmosphere. Star Trek VI notably introduces the Cameloids, a species of shapeshifters who, in their natural form, appear as an amorphous assemblage of tubules. Their shapeshifting is enabled by rapid cellular metamorphosis, which allows them to change their appearance at will without apparent fatigue. Due to their nature, at least during the 23rd century, they are often perceived by other species with suspicion and mistrust. This has led to Cameloids being regarded in some regions of space as outcasts, their true societal structure largely undocumented. As far as other Federation members or species serving in Starfleet go, the Undiscovered Country also introduces the Megazoids or Zeotians, humanoids with unusually shaped webbed feet, and Zelenites, tall humanoids with blue skin. Serving in Starfleet is also a member of the Rott species, named after Trek Extra Victor Stein. Get it? The Rott I mean, shit, I've only seen that written, achieved spaceflight before at least the mid-21st century, and have makeup that resembles the Algolians and Promelians. The Rott God, that's such a weird name, can also be seen as background characters in TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Unfortunately, many of the other background aliens seen throughout the films, and the series themselves for that matter, go unnamed, so I'm afraid that's the end of our journey for now.
I think if making this video proved anything to me, it's that the original series did two things at once.
With many species, they played it safe and didn't even really try to create elaborate alien designs even within their budget, but in lots of other instances, they were actually more creative than some of the later shows with unique, non-humanoid intelligences, and the films allowed them to flex their alien biology muscles a bit more.
But what's your favorite alien species from TOS or the TOS movies? Let me know that down below. As well as whether you'd like to see videos like this on the aliens of TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and beyond. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my donors who allow me to bring on outside talent like editors to make more high quality content for you to enjoy. By becoming a patron member, you also get access to awesome perks like behind the scenes photos and videos, patron member only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation, all are appreciated. Links to my PayPal, as well as my social media and merch store, are in the description too. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe there too, so you don't miss any new content. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.
Hey you! Yes, you! Sitting there, cuddling your 7 of 9 body pillow. Listen up! It's me again, the ghost of Dr. Asukaza, emerging one last time from reptilian hell to deliver an extremely important message. All 3 issues of Star Trek Endurance are now available as an omnibus. If you don't know what the word omnibus means, don't worry, Erica didn't either. All you need to know is if you sign up for $2 or more at patreon.com/OrangeRiver and click on the pinned post, you can read all 3 issues of Endurance as a single webcomic. It's that simple. And if you're watching this in the future and that post is no longer pinned, just search Star Trek Endurance, and if you can read, you'll have no trouble finding it. On the other hand, if you're a YouTube member, just scroll on Orange River's community tab, and unless you have the attention span of an Adosian suckerfish, you'll see the link there too. Okay, back to reptilian hell, for good now!
Do you like merchandise? If so, head on over to the new and improved Orange River merch store. That's right, Orange River is now officially on Spreadshop. I've got a bunch of awesome new designs, including All the Way Down,
All the Way,
Vape God, Tally, aka Best Girl,
it was totally worth it.
and what is perhaps my greatest design yet,
I love being married to my husband.
Plus, I've got some of my classic designs like Orange River Arrowhead, N7, Metroid, Mycelial Network,
The mycelial network is like
Mycelial Network, and more. And there are even some new products like Orange River hats. That's right, Orange River hats now exist. Visit the link in the description to get discounts and other special deals on items from my store.
As far as we know, Earth is the only planet that harbors life. But our intuition tells us this cannot possibly be the case. Out of the trillions of worlds that exist throughout the universe, there must still be many others that can support life too. From the litany of plants that shine differently under alien suns, to the smallest microbes that inhabit every corner of alien biospheres, to the intelligent beings we desperately hope share our sense of wonder. How realistic are our wildest imaginings? Possibly not wild enough. Landscapes await us that we cannot begin to understand, and phenomena that will put us in our place. But also profound beauty. Join me as I explore the possibilities of what lies beyond the scope of our planet.